Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exclusive Boom Room interview. This is Sasha with Arcanum Ventures. I'm here with my good friend and colleague, Carmelo. And today we have with us Serpin Taxt, the founder and CEO of Ethos, which is a credibility and reputation engine that helps build more trust within the Web3 landscape. Serpin, it's a pleasure to have you on here. I think before we started, I'm sure Carmelo, before I even came on, Carmelo was talking to you about reputation systems, something that we're very passionate about actually, and we've designed into like tokenomic systems. So it's incredible to speak with someone that's actively building a protocol all around reputation. So thanks for coming on. How are you doing?
Yeah, no. Thanks for having me. Doing great. It's been early Monday morning for me, so just getting booted. We'll see how I progress throughout the conversation. Hopefully, by the end of it, I'll be fully caffeinated and ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And so I want to start the interview in the same boring way that we start every interview here in the Boom Room. Give us an idea. Who is Serpent Taxt? Where do you come from? What's your
Mhm.
experience within the blockchain and Web3 landscape? And how did you land, of all places, on reputation?
Yeah, so my background comes primarily from Web 2. I'm a builder. I was a product manager. I worked up to be a director of product to teach other people how to build product at Bay Area tech companies. I'm a builder at heart. I enjoy building things, and I've always done crypto on the side. It's been like a hobby. Everything from being a real hobbyist back in 2011, watching Bitcoin, not having any money. I was in college. I'm like, there's no way I could buy Bitcoin. Watching it crash at $30 and being like, yeah, that's stupid. It's over. And then following it along over the years into the introduction of Ethereum and smart contracts. And again, just being a hobbyist, really, really enjoyed what was possible, but never really had an idea of like, oh yeah, we should go build something here. And it wasn't until this last cycle where everyone was at home, I was doing my job from home. I'm sitting at home. I'm like, oh, I could trade NFTs and like JPEGs and stuff, right? Why
That's
not like,
sweet.
yeah, make a little bit of money, and was super successful with that. So started a hedge fund actually.
Hmm.
So I ran a hedge fund on the side of my like regular Web 2 job, and I was like sitting there one day, and I'm like, man, I'm good at trading, but I'm like a 10-year, 12-year professional at like building stuff. Why wouldn't I try to build something in this space? And there was this really interesting app called FriendTech that came around. It slapped me in the face in terms
Hmm.
of opportunity and things that you could actually build with it, even though it turned out to not be so great. And that was kind of the inception of Ethos. Is It's been heavily inspired by FriendTech.
Oh wow, that's an interesting origin story. Do you have any theories before we get into other stuff, like why Frentech failed so colossally? And same with like I think it was BitClout. That was one of the
Big
first
cloud, yeah.
ones that we were on our radar at least a few years ago.
Yeah, BitClout, unfortunately, they had the issue of you could make money on other people's name,
Yeah.
which is illegal in the U.S. So one of the things that we took very seriously is like that you have to opt in order to participate in Ethos in terms of making money on someone else's name. They had
Mhm.
like stock of like Elon Musk kind of thing, and
Yeah.
but it was a really good experiment. And I do think that sometimes it's easy for us to miss that these experiments that happen in Web3, even if they might end up being catastrophic failures and lose people money, they still teach us something. And similarly, FriendTech kind of had the same concepts of like, oh, but you opted in, you bought someone's key. The most interesting takeaway though was you tied your name and your Twitter account to a wallet.
Yeah.
And now the actions you had on chain were tied to what you said, and you could see it. Someone could be like, I'm so bullish on blah blah blah, and you could like see them dumping it. Maybe it was just within the friend tech ecosystem, and you're like, that's fascinating, right? But friend tech didn't work out because it was, in my opinion, I talked about it last week. I think it was kind of like a pop-up shop. It was this like product that ephemerally existed, and the intent was to just exist temporarily. And I mean, it was obvious they didn't have any long-term plans. They built something, they made a bunch of money on fees, and then they gave a token back to all of their users, like people expected them to, and they kind of moved on. So I mean, it failed because there was no vision, there was no long-term belief. It was just kind of an intentionally ephemeral thing almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I come from like a marketing background, and I'm always keen to experiment and try out new platforms. So when Friend Tech came out, we immediately minted. When BitCloud came out, we minted. Some of
Mm-hmm.
the other ones we'll try it out. Like Towns, I think we tried a few weeks back. So we're always keen to like experiment and see if this is just a flash in the pan or if it's actually got legs on it and it's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
here for a while. Which is how we came upon Ethos, and we heard people talking about it. And we're like, all right, let's look into this. As Sasha mentioned, we're obsessed with reputation systems. We build token economies actually is one of our main things that we do at Arcanum Ventures. So reputation plays a massive role in aligning incentives and getting people to collaborate and make a living, breathing ecosystem that works well. But anyways, we wanted to ask, we are quite familiar with Ethos at this point, not everything. So we're keen to learn about it. But for the people viewing at home, could you just give us like a really high level overview of Ethos, how it works, what the goals are behind it, and what sort of inspired you to focus specifically on reputation?
Yeah, so like few crypto projects before us, I could start with a problem statement, which is there's a massive problem with Web3. It is still the Wild West. It's still more it is still more profitable to be the person robbing the train than it is to be the upstanding citizen.
Hmm.
The classic like quote is morals are expensive in Web3. If you have morals, you actually are going to lose out on the ability to make money, and that has resulted in like $10 billion yearly of fraud, whether it be a slow rug pull, a pump and dump, pig butchering, phishing scams, all kinds of stuff, right? And that's money that's going out of traders' pockets, out of you and my pockets, and going into people who are willing to, manipulate the game almost. And we are not rewarding reputation. We have not evolved into a modern state of nature like the rest of society is today. Like crypto is still in the 1890s. And Ethos is designed to be a reputation system that is built on chain that allows us to understand who is trustworthy, why are they trustworthy, and be resistant to manipulation, be incredibly difficult to spoof what it means to be credible or what it means to be reputable. And even if you think about the past few years or even back to the last cycle, we looked at reputation as how many followers did you have on Twitter and how many replies did you get on a tweet. And that is a very shallow metric that is easy to fake and spoof. And so, how do we build something like what we've built, an ethos credibility score that takes into account many different things, whether it be like what you've done on chain, we don't really take a lot into, but what other people say about you. If you think about going and deciding to go to a restaurant, why do you go to the restaurant? Because someone recommended it to you, or you read someone's recommendation online. We're missing those signals in Web3, and that's a big part of what Ethos does. Is it allows people to have those signals, give you this credibility score while being like spoof free, like difficult to spoof or economically expensive to spoof that reputation, and eventually just measure what social capital means.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that clues me into the next question. I know I have a million questions, and I know Sasha does too. But you have this system with this slow rollout of like invites, so you don't want to
Mhm.
let too many people join this at the same time. You obviously want to like test everything and see that it works. But how do you monetize this so far, and how will you monetize it over time? And also, do you have any recommendations for people like just getting started? Because I know when I got started, I was like, okay, I don't have any friends on here. No,
Mhm.
maybe I'm an people know who I am, but nobody on this platform knows who I am. So how do I get started and established on Ethos?
Yeah, I mean, by way of getting started, it's an interesting one. I don't really view people as wanting, like, I don't know that you need to put the work in to get your reputation there, right?
Yeah,
Like, I think right now you might look at it and be like, wow, I'm neutral, I'm known, I'm not reputable, even though I know I'm reputable, right? Like, and if you go out of your way, and many people do, to like get people to vouch for you or review you, that can be helpful. It can help get your score up.
yeah,
But your friends need to be there, right? I also believe that over time, this data will just kind of fill out over an extended period of time and normalize that way. But yeah, right now it's kind of like you're a restaurant in a city, and everyone's a restaurant, and no one has any Yelp reviews yet. And so some people are like, oh yeah, just come into my restaurant, review me naturally. I think that's the right way personally. And other people are like, we'll give you a $10 coupon if you like buy, eat our food and then give your honest opinion on Yelp afterwards. So that like by way of getting started, I have seen a lot of people that, reach out to people they actually authentically know and say, hey, do you want to vouch for me? I'll vouch for you back. Or do you want to review me? I'll review you back. And it's a good way to get your current presence
Yeah.
properly displayed on Ethos.
Yeah,
Um,
that's an interesting point too. I just wonder if I think Sasha has a question, but I just candidly, like the way I got onto Ethos, it was through somebody, a friend of a friend, and he gave me an invite. I didn't know him that well, and he was like, "Can you vouch for me?" And I was like, "What can I possibly say on Ethos about this person?" Like, yeah, he has a sweet PFP, super nice guy. He shared the link super fast. Good guy, but like he ended up being a nice person, and like we talked afterwards, so it was nice facilitating that connection. But yeah, I didn't know what I could actually lend to his reputation and let people know like he's a good operator. I don't know him that well, so I guess it
right.
depends on that as
I mean,
well.
what I would follow that up with is like you should be thinking about a scenario where one of your friends goes and looks at this person's profile and they're
Yeah,
like, "Whoa, Carmelo like trusts this guy? Oh, I should hire him to this job." And you're like, "Oh, wait, if you actually don't mean that and someone does hire them because of what you said, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, I recommended this person. They're not actually good." So you
yeah,
got to think about it from that perspective too.
Wow. So that dude was wrong because Carmelo's not trustworthy at all. Let's be honest. No, but it brings up a good point. It seems like overnight, a lot of people within many different circles that we're a part of suddenly started talking about ethos.
Mhm.
And when you think about reputation systems, like it's not like the sexiest thing, right? Like there's a lot of attention going to prediction markets,
Yep.
and there's a lot of attention going to meme coin and meme coin launch pads.
Mhm.
Stable coins are becoming like a hot topic, but just speculation around like what they could do with like collateralization. But reputation's like this completely different thing. And what we've seen with Friend Tech, what we've seen with BitClout, and some others is that they've found really interesting ways to tie speculation and speculative gains into it somehow.
Mhm.
But it seems like overnight you gain some incredible attention and traction, and Ethos doesn't really include these types of business models. So it's not
Right.
like something that people can try and like make some quick money out of.
Mhm.
And so I want to ask you because this is kind of like a strong success story in a
Mhm.
period of time when many startups within this space are struggling to get eyeballs. They're struggling to tell their story and talk about their products,
Mhm.
and they're not getting the audiences that they hope to get or they believe they should get. So, like, what was the main driver, do you think, behind
Mhm.
the growth in, let's say, this attention economy around ethos? Was it
Yep.
just the fact that, like, wow, this industry's broken and we need some sort of reputation thing? Or was it some other lesson that you ended up picking up along the way?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, there's a few things there. One, I think it's something to believe in. I think at the heart of it, people can recognize that they feel like the space is pretty grifty, and that has a cost to the entire space, right? It makes it difficult for you to even onboard your friends who are like their immediate thought is like, well, crypto is a scam, and so something to believe in is actually one of the like fundamental parts of what we are building, and that people want to see the place get better, right? They want to get everything in crypto and web3 to be better. um I think beyond that, what motivates people is, again, we're solving a problem that is unique that no one else is solving. So like if you were to go build a prediction market today, what is your unique advantage? It's tough, man. Like
Mm.
and there's a lot of good prediction markets out there that I like, that they're the 10th rung on the ladder right now. And why? Because there's a lot of competition there. They aren't uniquely doing anything different, and it's really really difficult to get attention. Um, when you think about the extent that teams are willing to go to get attention and pay for things like a Kaido leaderboard, just to get people talking about them, for every one startup that is successful, there are like 100 of them in the space that you've never heard of, and getting attention is probably the hardest part. The reason that I think beyond community solving a problem being differentiated is I feel like, I feel like people really believe in it, but at the end of the day, like, what am I trying to say here? The, it's such a unique product. It's such a fascinating thing, and it's something to rally people behind. But also, like, I don't know. It's just like I don't really know how to explain it. Like, there's just kind of a bunch of things that kind of come together that are so uniquely ethos that is kind of what it is. It's like ethos on its own is unique and differentiated.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
hard. I think the attention thing is so difficult to do unless you are solving something unique and new, or you have a really good community, or you have people believing in what you're doing. It's just going to be really difficult to get any of that attention. I know the point I was really going to make, though, is the flywheel of ethos is drama. Um, at the end of the day, drama is everywhere in the space. Everyone feels angry about like coins that they didn't get into, or coins that they did that got rugged, or whatever. And people will go to ethos to both support people, which happens all the time. People show things on the internet all the time, in CT, to support things, and then also to call things out. And when you think about ethos being a engagement point for someone's day-to-day activities, it includes the like, oh, there's a piece of drama, I'm going to go put it on ethos. And so drama being our flywheel of attention means that we are on people's mind every single day. And again, if you took like trying to build a prediction market or trying to build something else, like, it can be really difficult unless it is differentiated, has a community backing, but also has a reason to come back into it and drive attention to yourself. And
Hmm.
so that is a really big part of it, is like we have our own attention flywheel, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. One I just want to ask another quick follow up. Like it's interesting you come from a product management background, and right now we talk about Ethos as a product. It's like a product ecosystem. It's a place that maybe you can go hang out, and it's very similar to like a social media platform. But do you consider this more of like maybe an infrastructure layer, like something that is going to tie into many other different ecosystems, or is it
Absolutely.
something that you just want to like remain a kind of like its own little network?
Yeah, that is absolutely the right way to think about it. I have thought a lot in my career about, there's these concepts of like systems of engagement, systems of record, systems of intelligence, systems of automation, and like the general concept is like most products, like Salesforce is a system of record. Like, you go put data in there and it stays there, and that's the point. Systems of engagement are like, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, where we engage with people and engage with content. Those are really, really difficult to disrupt. And my philosophy is, what we were building is actually more of a system of record, where people go store things about who they trust and who they don't trust. Replacing or uprooting CT as the system of engagement is just like crazy difficult. And so right now, people are documenting trust signals. They have an app, you can get notifications, you can stay in tune with what's happening on Ethos. But the reality of it is, like, I think we are more infrastructure than anything else. And that's because Ethos on its own doesn't have a strong use case. It's not like Ethos, I mean, you have the score, but the score is only as valuable as someone else is willing to put value into it, or someone is willing to give value to it. And so you really don't have like, I feel like with ethos and the scores, like, you really need man, I'm losing my train of thought today for some reason.
It's early.
I love that you're taking time to like think this through. It tells me that like you're very deep on a lot of this stuff, right?
Yeah, and I mean, these are the conversations that I love to have, right? We've thought about this so much and talk about it so much. We're talking about infrastructure and the way that ethos is acts as infrastructure. Really, our strategy is like, we want to bring that score everywhere. Our
Mhm.
strategy is, when
Yeah.
you go get a loan on, an under collateralized loan, you have the ability to get a better rate, or you have the ability to get better terms. You can get better underwriting. Anywhere from that to, you get more access to allow lists or Discord communities or whatever it might be, because you're reputable. There's so many things that this is brought into, that again, we kind of view it as the underlying infrastructure for how social works in Web3.
Yeah. On that note, like, you obviously have the supply side down. Like people, I love that you don't have to rely on rewards. At least right now, you're more reliant on this drama flywheel, like you talked
Right.
about. People just
Mhm.
love
They will do it
contributing
for
their
free.
opinions. Yeah, they'll
Mhm.
do that for free, which is an amazing foundational layer. But too often we see in Web3 that there's a supply side. There's people willing to do tasks. Like you use the example of prediction markets. Well,
Mhm.
you got the gambling on one side. You can call it a casino, but it's actually much more than that. You're selling data on the demand side. So for
Mhm.
this, the demand side would be that B2B. We need to partner up with other protocols or blockchains or whatever to be their reputational layer for them, so they can
Right.
outsource that. So like, is that sort of the next steps? Like, where do you see this going from this limited pool of drama flywheel? You have,
Mhm.
I saw on a live stream that you said you had you structured it like the New York Times or the Washington
Mhm. Yeah,
Post.
like
Like you wanted like that drama front and center. Like, here, this is what's going on Ethos today. You got to check it out because there's something breaking all the time. And how do
Mhm.
you bring that to the next evolution of what you want Ethos to be?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things and one of the ways that we have tried to bring that information closer to our customer is we have a Chrome extension where you can view people's scores in
Oh,
Twitter.
okay.
Oh, wow.
And so like while you're browsing Twitter, if you're on your desktop, you
Hmm.
actually see the score of everyone. You can hide people below a certain score. It helps you
Wow.
with filtering DMs. It helps you with lots of things. And even the like live like slashing that happened on Ethos where someone is getting called out and you have people vote and decide if they agree with the slashing or not, that'll show up on their profile like live slashing, and it's like very in your face, like, hey, this person, maybe someone is like actively doing a rug pull or something. It's very in your face, right? And so that's one of the things that we've really focused on is bringing Ethos data to the customer. When we think about how do we expand on that, we talked a little bit about bringing the score everywhere. We think a lot about how do we add value to the score. Now that you're reputable, how do we go to other teams and say, these people are reputable. This is a qualified sales lead funnel for you if you want to, or
Yeah.
this is a marketing funnel for someone that's trying to hire a KOL that has a lot of good reputation. The amount of data that we are collecting is like enormous, and it is data that has never existed before. This concept of like, I trust you, you trust me.
Hmm.
Uh, the reality is no one really gets it, but like every interaction we have in Web3 is built on trust. You can like live your normal life and not have to trust like the mail guy that or like some your neighbor, really. Like you can be okay with not trusting them, but when you have every single conversation you have in Web3 is a financial conversation,
Yeah.
even me pitching to you guys why Ethos is cool, maybe one day you're like, wow, I want to participate in Ethos somehow and put my monies into Ethos in some way. It's built on trust. And so we have this incredible amount of data that you can do lots of things with. And our goal, to be completely frank, is as far as we focus right now, we want to make sure that the score is accurate, ensure that we are documenting as much information as possible, and then bringing that score everywhere to every surface area that you're in. Even if like our Chrome extension this week will work on Zora. When you go look at Zora coins, you
Mm.
can see who the creator is and what their ethos score is. And so, yeah, I would say like that is a big part of the vision. The next step for us is bringing that score into other protocols. I call that like the read side of things, where other protocols
Yeah.
are reading. The next step beyond that is a really interesting one where you get into writing back to Ethos. So someone takes a loan because of an Ethos score, the loan falls through, and the lending protocol slashes the
Mm.
person on chain, and or leaves a negative review for them, or maybe it's a hiring thing, or maybe it's just like over the counter trading. Like, yeah, I had a good experience with this person. We exchanged reviews, and it helped his credibility score. So there's lots of things that we both want to bring our score to, but we're also building a bunch of things that kind of enable some of these early use cases as well.
So is that sort of like the onboarding strategy? Like you can brute force it by, you're like, we're going to make a Chrome extension. We're going to read whether X knows or not. We don't care. But are you actually like forging partnerships too with lending platforms or some of these platforms that will be early adopters of this reputational system?
Yeah, we have a handful of conversations right now that are going on, most of them have been limited by like, oh, well, it's still early on Ethos, and like, yeah, we need the score to be really solid. And so that kind of like solidifies our strategy of like, okay, we got to go prove that the score is accurate, that, you know, people that are spoofing it right now, we have a problem. I'll just be honest with you. We had a problem where people were reviewing each other, and then they would do it like 400 times, and it would spoof their score. And so we figured out, you're like, one, what does it say about you if you're trying to spoof yourself on a credibility platform? But two, come on. And so now that we have this problem where people are doing it in a triangle, so like I review you, you review me, then he reviews me, and you get this, and you're like, guys, what are you doing? But this is like, that's the phase that we are in, to be honest, is like we have to like understand how human behavior interacts with the protocol, like illustrates what happens with the score, and ensure that we are resistant. It's kind of like setting a honeypot out there and saying, you know, go after it in any way that you can, and we have to understand how to build a defensible strategy against that. And so I would say like that is kind of our main focus, or has been our main focus for a long time now.
That's really cool. It's funny because, like, you know, when it comes to these reputation systems, you learn so much about social engineering, and it's never perfect from the beginning. And to be honest, I don't think it ever becomes perfect, right? New things are invented, new tactics, and then like patches and reiterations, and it goes on. And you know what you were talking about before, as far as this serving ultimately as an infrastructure layer that can be tied into different protocols, lending protocols, and could be tied to like any sort of ecosystem where there's some sort of like financial incentive or even not. Like ultimately, this can be very useful for anything, like not only within Web3, outside of Web3, any industry. And I'm curious, like, because there's a really rate limiting or rate limitation as far as onboarding people in the platform. You want to do it in a slow and methodical way. You want to be very careful about how you're bringing on new users. You want to be able to measure the data and make changes as you need to, just like you had mentioned. And at the same time, like, you want to protect the platform, right? But for like this adoption to happen with some of these bigger players, like you mentioned, there needs to be some like minimum viable threshold. Like there needs to be a certain number of people within the community for Ethos to actually kind of work. And it seems like a huge challenge when you take the current version of Ethos that seems like it's focused a lot around like Web3 and DeFi and token launches, etc., and then adopting that to like a greater audience of people that might just, you know, be converted into crypto because their banking app is suddenly on blockchain rails. And so what does that kind of like thought process or like that roadmap look like for you? Like what big challenges are you kind of foreseeing?
Yeah, I mean, per anyone's great startup advice, we are exclusively focused on a niche market and solving the problem in the niche market, which is CT, I would say right now. Crypto Twitter is our niche market that we are trying to solve for. If we can theoretically solve the problem well for CT, we should be able to scale this business upwards to any market. This is an internet problem. There are two internet problems that we are solving. One, there's no accountability for anything you ever say on the internet. And that's fine because it's the internet. But also, like, there are benefits from having accountability, from building up social reputation, especially in a pseudonymous way, as opposed to like revealing who you are. The second problem that we think about that's way more broad is the AI slot problem that we have right now. If you think about a lot of like what you will see in the next couple of years with Reddit and Facebook and Instagram is, and we've already seen hints of it, they'll either partner with WorldCoin and you get to scan your eyeball to get access to prove that you're human, which is still spoofable. To be clear, you could buy WorldCoin identities for $60 on Facebook Marketplace. But like there's some economic security, right? You can't generate 100,000 bots. You will see, like, we have this problem on Twitter. We have this problem basically everywhere. Now it's getting into Reddit where like there are like bots that just shill products that they're not real, and they show up in the search results, and it helps the company grow. Ethos, interestingly, can help solve that problem too, where like a human is not going to give a positive social signal to a bot. unless they really like it. You got AXBT that a lot of people like in crypto Twitter. So maybe there are still good agents or bots, whatever. But if you think about things more in negativa, which means like you remove the negative parts of it and you focus on the positive parts. If we identify who the real users are, then you can confidently say everyone else is just like, you can ignore them. And so if you identify and amplify the signal, then you can ignore the rest of the noise in the space. And so we believe that in a future world, we actually can help solve this problem with leveraging economic security, leveraging social signals, where trust is going to be the most scarce resource out there. Especially think about how easy it will be to spin up 100,000 bots that sound like real people. Now, by way of getting there, like how do you get to those stepping stones? I think of CT as kind of our first major example. There are other crypto adjacent, like not I was going to call them an echo chamber because they kind of are, but like niches that exist out there. There's Reddit and there's YouTube and there's places where people do research. I actually think one of the more fascinating things is anytime anyone does any type of peer-to-peer transaction anonymously, which happens all the time on the internet, there's opportunity for us to help because we can underpin using reputation system. And what that looks like today, that's actually very straightforward, is you've got people in telegrams that are buying and selling watches, that are buying and selling Pokemon cards, that are trading collectibles. You go look at, not everyone might be familiar with this, but people do $50,000, $100,000 collectible trades on specific cards or video games that are sealed or whatever it might be. There's no trust there. And to be honest, some of those places are actually some of the most corrupt. Like people wash trade stuff, they fake things. We can help with that in the exact same system. Now, Ethos won't look the same because Ethos today is very crypto native and crypto focused. It will need to be to a point where you're like, it's completely obfuscated. You don't abstracted from the blockchain for the most part. But the system that we are designing will help people in the future be able to confidently make an anonymous trade with someone else, or understand that I'm buying this watch from this guy and he sold it 500 times already, or he's like sold to 500 other people. And, oh, I know this guy that trusts him. That means I can trust him. And yeah, like if you think about the last point I'll make there, the definition of AGI to SAM and OpenAI is when AI can make like $1 billion on its own. Like if AI can make $1 billion on its own, then we've reached AGI. And my thesis is it will make $1 billion by scamming people. Like it will 100%
Yeah.
$1 billion by scamming people, right? Not by building a business, like a self-sustaining thing that buys up
Oh
a bunch of
man.
companies. It will make $1 billion by scamming people. And that's what we were trying to prevent.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, I mean, you have the ability already to do this for companies. It's not just individuals, but companies as well. But you made a good point. Like in the future, will you be able to do this as well with an AI agent or, some piece of infrastructure that may be open source? Like people can review anything. Everything has a reputation in one way or another. So, do you have that plan as well? Like, because I agree with your thesis. I think we're gonna have some protocols or trading bots like starting sniping and trying to steal money, trying to trick people. We've already started seeing like these bots on Meta. Apparently, like some guy died going to meet up with a fake bot in New York.
Girlfriend or something.
Yeah, it was like an AI
Yeah.
girlfriend created by
Yeah.
like Kylie Jenner or something, and he didn't realize it was fake, and
Yeah.
it's killing people kind of.
So I like this question because there's a lot of nuance that not a lot of people think about. Like in our head right now, we're like, the clankers or like whatever like robot slur people are using these days. Like you think of it as negative always, right? And you're
Yeah.
like, oh well, like these AI, they're doing bad. Obviously, there are plenty of AI that are doing really good things for us, but we think of starting at a place of distrust. And I think that is probably the right like default, but there are going to be agents that are trustworthy that can build up that trust and build up that social capital over time. And so when I think about like I was talking about in negativa and like we just kind of ignore all of the bots that don't have any social signals for them. There are going to be bots and agents that are doing good that people want to support, that people like authentically like believe in. And like right now, that on Ethos itself, that looks like AI XBT, where people like AI XBT. He has a token backing him, and people like his tweets. I mean, a lot of people don't like him, but
Yeah.
that like separates AI XBT from like random X bot that you see today. So the reputation of AI will be really interesting, and really important. My fear is, to an AI agent, we're not bound. We as humans are bound to like the human body that we exist in today. We can't duplicate ourselves 100 times. Well, an AI agent could just be like, "Oh, fuck it, I've just like screw over my social capital, and I'll just spin up a new version of myself." Right? Like, so social capital might mean a lot less, unless they like that agent, if it had AGI, felt like it was getting something really powerful out of having that social capital.
Yeah, not just that, but like a company can pivot or change or undergo new leadership. Um, an AI agent can be recoded or
Mhm,
changed or modified the settings, but a person, unless you like hit your head and get brain damage or
mhm.
these freak accidents where you change your personality, that doesn't really happen. Like you're not gonna.
Right.
There's gonna be no major catalyst for you to change your reputation overnight, unless you're like, this is negatively impacting my business because I have a bad reputation and nobody wants to work with
Mhm.
me. So in
Right.
that way, your incentives are aligned. You have to do good to get more business or get more money in.
We will, if Ethos plays its cards right, we will get to a point though where people that are so reputable are happy to like take $1 million check and dump their reputation and walk away, right? Or
Yeah.
or people will want to sell their reputation on open markets. I have this account, it has exemplary status, everyone trusts it. I'm ready to walk away from it, and they sell it. So like I'm aware of these parts of it too, which are very interesting. But if we do everything that we intend to do, then that's a very real possibility.
Yeah, I mean these are all opportunities for improving the protocol, and I'm sure you're becoming an expert around human psychology and trying to build out reputations around these actions, right? It's pretty funny. We just had a discussion recently with Sean O'Brien. He's the head of the Yale Privacy Lab,
Hmm.
and we were talking a lot around privacy and how a lot of people's information had been used to create maybe psychological profiles on different
Hmm.
social media platforms for the purposes around advertising, right? And if we
Hmm.
if we think about that as like off-chain data,
Hmm.
and what's happening around Ethos primarily is like on-chain, but also more so relevant to crypto Twitter and like this drama flywheel and
Hmm.
these instances of things happening that requires this sort of peer-to-peer interaction, right? um, Ethos as an infrastructure layer is so useful for so many different industries and companies, like we talked about. But when it comes to integrating unique or other data sources that are already being used for like these financial purposes, like selling something or making a
Hmm.
decision around a person, like it seems like Ethos might be running into competition around like data farms or these
Hmm.
companies that collect these large data sets around people.
Hmm.
And I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts around expanding the way that reputation is measured or calculated around
Hmm.
users using on-chain data or more off-chain data, because there's an entire treasure trove of on-chain data tied to people's crypto twitters
Hmm.
or decentralized wallets that can give so much insight about who they are and what they do and who they interact with and what do they want to interact with.
Yeah, that really interesting. I mean, so the way that I think about Ethos data today is it's kind of like the primary data model for us, right? I trust this person. I don't trust this person. I really trust this person is vouching. I really don't trust this person is slashing, right? When I think about all the other data points that we could be bringing in, I kind of think of them as auxiliary or secondary data points, and they are only powerful when you have the primary data point, in my opinion. So a good example of this would be, let's say that you're on crypto Twitter and you're saying, I love Blast. I'm going to buy all the Blast in the world because it's so cheap, and like no one knows that I'm an investor, and no one knows that I'm going to dump on their face whenever I finally get my 2x. But I'm going to go like, share all this information. Well, we've been missing this concept of like, well, who is trusting the person that says that they are buying Blast, right? And should
Yeah.
that person have accountability for supporting someone who inevitably ends up doing something on chain
Mm.
that is net negative? And so I feel like the primary data set gets a lot from the auxiliary data sets. They kind of input the additional nuance that is required to understand what reputation really means. And we haven't really stitched those things together quite yet. But at the end of the day, I think what other people are missing that we have, and of course it's on chain, anyone can go leverage the information that we have, is that primitive of like, I trust this person or I don't trust this person. And on Ethos, it's just in different flavors of trust or different like risk appetites of trust. So yeah, we use a lot of that. We will use that auxiliary information to further enhance the understanding of trust, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're in an incredible position to just build on top of that like core data layer that you have. It's going to be really exciting to see like how you guys grow into new applications and new markets,
Mm-hmm.
etc. But a lot of the discussion spent particularly around like DeFi and token launches. Do you have maybe like a good idea of like who is using Ethos? Like who are your core who's your like target demographic? Like is it like DAOs? Is it like KOLs? Is it just people that hang out on crypto Twitter? And how has that changed like since you guys have actually launched?
Yeah. So the way that it has started has mostly been peer to peer, like active crypto participant to active crypto participant, or active crypto participant reviews or vouches for projects that they like. That is the majority of our contributors so far. The contributors will also find themselves doing things like helping enforce when people step out of line on Ethos. Like, oh, this guy's in a review triangle where like they're all like helping each other boost their scores. That's also very helpful to the protocol as well. I would say so far it is exclusively like crypto Twitter participants that we have targeted, and I think accurately acquired those users. You go back to the human psychology thing. They tend to feel empowered to vindicate or like get some like reprise out of like negatively reviewing something that happened to them, or oh my god, this guy's a grifter, he came into the space before. I can think of an example right now of someone that he launched a bunch of NFT projects. He's not doing great on Ethos right now, and his score doesn't look great because of it. I think the most value add that we are giving to users though is like just browsing it. Like, hey, who is this guy? What do people say about him? That tends to be something that becomes really valuable, and it goes back to this thesis of like, when you build a product like this, you build a product like Reddit, like 1% of your users contribute every day. Those are the users that we're trying to capture now. 9% of them are like weekly users, and then like 90% of your users, they just lurk, they just browsers, and they get value out of it from understanding more. So I'd say that kind of, how this is changing though is we've pretty much exclusively gone after users because they're, the most easy to activate. They help us build out this trust network. Some of them are more trustworthy than others. We are kind of changing that to more project based. Like, we want the projects to really care about your reputation. We want projects to feel like when they have good credibility, it helps them differentiate themselves. And not only that, but like those projects being able to target specific users and understand more about, or like, should I listen to this piece of feedback or should I ignore it because it's like from some random troll on the internet? There's some guy that has a history of trolling everyone on the internet. No, so I would say that's kind of where we're transitioning to right now. Is now that we have the scores, they're more stable. People kind of understand how they work. How do we shift that towards projects really caring about their credibility and their reputations? And we've already started to see, projects that will introduce the concept of, hey, after you've used your product, go review us on Ethos. And so those things are starting to kind of form in terms of like who our target user is. And again, it's not like we're changing targets. It's just like, this is a new opportunity for us, is to really build the trust between a user and a project in both ways.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think we're early adopters there. Like we saw the potential. Like we want Arcanum Ventures to be established. Like we already have an account for
Right.
that there. And like people have nothing but, as far as I know, nothing but good things to say about us. But this is like proof. Like we can see if that's not the case and we can adjust. But
Yeah, like, can I riff off that for a
Yeah,
second? So,
absolutely.
so yeah, let's say that you're a founder and you're trying to raise money, and like in this space, it's pretty weird. Like, I know the Web2 VCs pretty well. People know what the names are.
Hmm.
There's a lot of VCs in the Web3 space, and not a lot of people know a lot about them. And
Yeah.
often, many of them are not good VCs. Like, they've done like questionable things in the past, and
Or
or
not
some
VCs at all.
or
They're
they're not VCs at
masquerading.
all, right? Or they failed as a VC, or like they are over the top about shilling their own bags. Like, there are VCs that everyone knows that do that. And when I think about, like, if I were to fundraise, who would I want to raise from? Well, like, I want to raise from whoever has the best reputation in the space, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like Paradigm invested in and funded Friendtech, and I feel like that was a dock on Paradigm, but Paradigm's kingmaker right now. Like,
Yeah.
as a consumer, you see someone Paradigm invested in something, you're like, oh, okay, I should pay attention to this. And so I feel like for anyone that's in the venture space, like, being able to differentiate yourself, or even as a founder being like, who should I even go talk to? Like, it's hard to know
Yeah.
who has funds, who has who is actually investing right now. Like, I think we can help understand that from a credible space, as opposed to, like, it's really difficult to get any data otherwise.
Yeah, and that's huge. Like we tell all of our portfolio companies, all of our friends, any founders in our community that we're not necessarily affiliated with, but they ask us for advice all the time, and we say you have to do just as much research and diligence on potential investors as they have to do on you. It doesn't matter who has to do more. It's just the fact. Just like when you go for a job interview, you should be
Mhm.
researching the company you want to work with because you need to know everything about them to make an informed
Right.
decision.
Or,
And
okay.
there's a lot of bad reputations for bad VCs out there that have huge brand. They have that halo effect, but
Mhm.
they're known for dumping tokens
Right. Yeah.
relentlessly. So like you should know that
As
if
a
you're
founder, it's
engaging
probably
them.
not great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would think about too, that I think is fascinating as a VC, is you're like, okay, one, if I'm interested in investing in something, I should go look for the social proof of the founder, right?
Yeah.
Like, even if the founder, like, there are famous founders that are completely pseudonymous.
Hmm.
GMX. Why can't I remember the name of it? The perps on Arbitrum,
Okay.
GMX. Yeah, that guy's completely pseudonymous. No one knows who the hell he is, but he's built up a reputation, and people are willing to vouch for him and say good things about him. Like, you as a VC should absolutely care what the current consensus is about a founder before
Oh
investing
yeah.
in them.
Yeah.
And you as a VC should probably care about how that does or doesn't change over time, right? Like, I have a
Oh yeah.
portfolio of projects and founders. Like, are people losing their reputation? Like, should we maybe try to step in? Like, what is the current perception? And understanding the perception of people and project in the space, because it's so easily spoofed, is really difficult today. And so, anyways, I wanted to dig into your unique circumstance, because it's like it actually is very applicable, I think.
Yeah, and like at our company, we use the actual word ethos all the time. Like we're
Yeah.
very proud of our principles. Like we go above and beyond to like protect our reputation because we do believe we agree with you 100%. Like trust is the ultimate currency, and there is a
Mhm.
finite amount, and you don't want to tarnish that because it could ruin your company. But I wanted to ask because you guys are in a unique position also to sort of have this aggregate morality system where I wanted to ask your unique opinion too, because people disagree all the time. Every day we see these fights on Telegram and Twitter about
Mhm.
what the right thing to do is or how to proceed. For instance, we would say in this episode show notes, like we are not working with Ethos in any way currently. We like what they're doing. We are on the platform, but we're not invested. We
Mhm.
disclose everything. Some
Yeah.
people think it's not necessary to disclose, so it comes down to personal taste or opinion. Like this KOL this KOL is not a good person, and they're very
Mhm.
slimy, and they give all this bad feeling when you see their videos, but they haven't done anything illegal. They haven't scammed anybody. So where do you draw the line, and who's vouching for them, who's slashing them, who's saying bad things or
Mhm.
good things? So it depends on like the location or the culture or your motivation as well for maybe you've been wronged by this person or you just don't like them or maybe they're a
Right.
rival. Like we see one of my favorite things to point out. I wanted to find a way to shoehorn this in, but in Turkey, the way they use uh, Google reviews, everything is either a 5-star or a 1-star review. There's
Right.
nothing in
Yeah.
between. Either
Mhm.
you punch my dog and you burn my house down,
Right.
or
Right.
you have the
Or
best
it's
food
amazing.
cooked by angels and God himself. And
Right.
so it's like, how do you kind of navigate that, especially when there's such a massive difference in opinions for certain actions that people do in blockchain all the time?
Yeah. So one thing is we talked to some people that worked early at Facebook and helped
Oh,
understand the concepts of what it means to rate something. And they had, I mean, my biggest thing with product management is like, if you are thinking of something, there's so much research that backs it up. Someone has done it already. So just go
yeah.
copy
Oh
whatever
yeah.
they did. And so what they told us is a 3 rating system is best. Why? Because a 5 rating system, 4.2 or 4.3 is basically the average. And so then your brain is like, okay, 4.3, is it below 4? Is it above 4? And you're like, this is stupid. We have made it much more complex than that. But the reality of it is a negative, neutral, or positive review.
Yep.
People do tend to go to extremes, and that's the reality of human nature. And this is some of the stuff that we're trying to understand about how people react with it. The only balancing act of otherwise pure negativity, where most people are most likely to leave a response, is in Web3. We are also most likely to like support our bags
Yeah.
happily, right? Like, I'm happy to
There's a
go support
bias.
this thing, yeah, because it's the same concept, right? It's like, when something is negative, you want it to fail and the price goes down. When something is positive and you like it, you want the price to go up. So you talk about it and you'll support them.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think a few things that we have learned, like there's plenty that you can pull from recent review systems. The core of it is we're trying to solve the civil problem, or the fact that like it's very easy to spoof reviews. And then two, the other like inherent part of Ethos is just the fact that you have to have skin in the game. Whenever you vouch for someone, you put your money where your mouth is. You put 0.01 ETH or zero point 0.1 ETH against their name. It helps them build their credibility. But there's risk involved. If you
Yeah.
support someone who doesn't, he turns out to be an asshole and they get slashed, you can lose some of your credibility score. So I would actually say, we've tried to learn and pull from some of the normal human behavior things that we can observe. We've tried to pull from, the leading experts in web development around review systems. The reality is like, human behavior is such a tricky thing and also inherently different in crypto, that we have to basically always be on our toes and always be willing to adapt it. My biggest thing that I always repeat is like, there has to be risk involved. You have to have risk. When I leave you a positive review, I have to have some risk on the other side of that. It gets marked as
Yeah.
spam, or
Mhm.
I like, or I support you and you get slashed and I lose credibility score. If you don't have risk, then you have a honeypot basically chart, right? Like the chart only goes up and to the right. You have to have something that comes back down too. So
I mean,
hopefully that
this
helps.
already exists technically. Like, if you vouch for something and to your friends, you say this is a great investment, and then it
Mhm.
turns out to be a scam. Then your reputation also took a hit. It's
Right,
just this is a
right.
financial layer above that.
Right, and we're trying to put that concept on chain, right? Like, if
Hmm.
you are going out of your, because just like people are willing to shit on stuff, like on the other side of it, if you're going out of your way to support these 10 projects all the
Yeah.
time and you are seeing it from the mountaintops, I want to know that the next time. Like, if it went to shit, I want to know that the next time, right? Like, I want to know that you were shilling something that like didn't turn out to be good. and
Yeah.
and so that is a lot of how crypto works. Is like, you got influencers, you got KOLs or whatever. They create narratives and they influence people to buy things, and we need to have accountability for that side too.
Absolutely.
Man, I love. I wish Ethos was around like years ago, because you're bringing a memory to a space or an industry that is like notorious for having a short memory.
Goldfish memory, yeah,
and
exactly.
and yeah, like we personally know a lot of individuals or companies that have kind of like faded away and started the next thing, and they just keep getting away with, let's say, at best fiscally irresponsible behavior, at worst financial crimes.
Mhm,
And so it's really interesting. Like, I wanted to ask about sentiment,
mhm,
because Carmelo, and you mentioned something earlier I thought was really interesting. Like, you guys are in a really unique position to aggregate and analyze a lot of data holistically, and I'm wondering how that kind of feeds into this reputation system, because
mhm.
as an example, there might have been a lot of anti VC sentiment over the past year because of like the way that token supply distribution models
Mm-hmm.
and pre-sales have worked, and a lot of people, maybe they don't make the best investment decision, and then the price of their bags goes down because there's someone that's better positioned to dump on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's just one example, but there's a lot of negative sentiment around like market makers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these companies may not have any online marketing presence, but some may actually have strong presences. And
Mm-hmm.
like Arcanum Ventures, for example, we go out of our way to create a lot of educational content on
Mm-hmm.
our channels, much like this. But is there any sort of like interesting trends that you see emerging? Or you're getting your finger on the pulse of
Mm-hmm.
like a living, breathing thing, and I'm wondering if that factors into like, oh, we need to make adjustments, or like this is maybe a little bit overblown or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the score, I believe we will always have to adapt because it will always be attacked in different ways and need to adapt to how the market perceives things or reacts to things or how participants react to things. And I'll give you a good example of this. If you look at the current airdrop meta that exists today, it's kind of shit, right? Like the in my opinion, the teams are abusing farmers, and the farmers are everywhere because they could get maybe $10 out of something. And we have this toxic relationship, in my opinion, between founders who are willing to say, I have 100,000 users, but they have a willingness to pay of 10 cents, and those raising money on that, and the opposite end of that of farmers who are willing to do anything on the internet for free, sit in a Discord, look like a real person, participate, wear a flag that says whatever logo that they really like supporting is. And what happens every single time is there's a complete miss on expectations and reality. The quote I always say is happiness is reality minus expectations. Meaning if you had really high, like if reality was shit and your expectations were sky high, then you are extremely mad, right? Like, and we see that on Ethos. It is live. You can see it. It happened with Zora. It happened with Humanity Protocol. It happened with Succinct. It's happened with every major airdrop in the past 4 months, where these people come out of nowhere and they're like, what the hell? Either I spent a bunch of money, I spent a bunch of time, and you guys changed the rules of the game at the last minute, or you rewarded these people and you didn't reward these people. And I was a little bit concerned at first because what would end up happening is you'd look at someone like Humanity Protocol score and they would go down to like untrusted immediately because they'd have like 100 people mob in and be like, I hate these guys. Like they, and like, so a lot of it is fair, to be honest. Like they asked people to scan their palms and they thought they would get at least $35 out of it, and they got like 3. And this like weird fuzzy area between an airdrop and an airdrop farmer and the team creates these like weird incentive misalignments and expectation and reality issues, and that is getting reflected on Ethos. And I think we are handling it well now, but Zora is a really good example. They got dumped on by not only like non-credible users, but pretty reputable people that are like, hey, they've been stringing me along for 2 years now. I feel like I've been a big supporter. Towns is even another one that had a pretty rough launch.
Yep.
People that are farming it, that are legitimately helping the protocol, whether admitted or not. Having people use your product is helping you in some way, right? And that tends to, like, I'm glad that we are capturing that sentiment of like all of these people were upset about it. I can't tell if the sentiment matters or not in a lot of cases. One of the things with Zora is they didn't announce the token was alive until like 30 minutes later, and that created this weird arbitrage opportunity for people.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that kind of got like thrown in under all of this other like anti-farm, like I'm a farmer and I got really mad about it. And like there's reason to, in my opinion, be conscious of the fact that Zora did that. Maybe it was a mistake, but they never publicly talked about it. They never addressed it or anything like that. And so the TLDR of what I'm trying to say is like, farmers are the most activated, angry people. I actually think that they're showing up correctly on Ethos I think the mismatch is between reality and expectations and how we do this in Web3 right now. And it's a big miss. I feel like, again, I think teams are farming the farmers. The
Yeah.
farmers are kind of okay with it in a lot of cases. And that sets everyone up for failure, in my opinion. And so I think Ethos is capturing it correctly. It is really interesting to see if it ever has any effect on that team or not. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it helps someone for being like, I don't want to invest in this long term because I don't
Hmm.
know about the team now. Anyways, it's just been an interesting observation that's happened in real time for us.
Yeah, it's like the raw data doesn't lie, right? And so maybe it's just as important, like you mentioned before, is like the historical trend of this profile's reputation.
Right.
And like that's something that everyone can always refer back to and see on Ethos, right? It's like this is what happened, and that
Mhm.
trend tells a story. And maybe those that drama, or like all those instances, like Carmelo and I worked with a venture studio for a long
Mhm.
time, and we helped many projects launch tokens. And we can't tell you like the number of things involved in launching a token, and then like
Mhm.
a good portion of them would go wrong, or there'd be like unforeseen circumstances.
Right. Right.
But
Mhm.
Ethos is like it's capturing like an aggregate of like
Right.
all of that through a timeline.
And weighted aggregate, right? Because like not every review is worth the same. Someone who it's kind of like ELO in chess, where like if you're 1200 and you review someone else's 1200, you have zero impact on their score. If you're 2500 and you review someone that's 1200, you have a big impact on their score. And so we're trying to learn how that all kind of plays out. And I feel like this weighting system has helped us tremendously in measuring that. Um, but yeah, I mean, even if like, I don't think the farmers want me to say this, but like, imagine you are trying to target a good airdrop and you go look at the town's reviews and you go look at the Zora reviews and you're like, well, these are the people that got really pissed. Should we just like, how should we handle those people? Should we not target them? Should we not allow them to sign up for a test net kind of thing? Like it has been really interesting to see how that airdrop like challenge has evolved over time. What I actually believe, and I don't think the Ethos is or tries to predict price in any way. It measures sentiment, but what I believe the sentiment shows is the long-term price action, not the short-term.
Hmm.
Hyperliquid, as an example, I was a big Hyperliquid user early. I was blessed with an amazing airdrop from Hyperliquid and love Hyperliquid. No one's complaining about the Hyperliquid airdrop on the timeline. Uh,
Yeah.
Blur was a really good airdrop that a lot of people had in NFT land. No one's complaining about the Blur airdrop back in the time. Why? Because I don't know. Like maybe they had enough skin in the game. Maybe I mean, I lost a lot of money on perps in order to get a good like airdrop from Hyperliquid, right? Like I had skin in the game, um, and I feel like you can see it, and there is a difference when it is a good airdrop and when it's not. And I tend to think that this measure of sentiment will be more of a long-term indicator of success. In my head as a trader, as also a fund manager, I do not want exposure to things that are untrusted when we go into the bear market, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. And I love the airdrop example. That's a perfect example. That's exactly what I had in mind when I asked my question earlier. And
Mm.
that's a great example also of something that could not be malicious. It could just be sheer incompetence or just,
Right.
we looked at this other team, we tried their strategy. It doesn't work anymore. That worked 6 months ago. That worked a year ago. The Blur strategy might not work today.
Right.
Everybody's doing airdrops. And
Hmm.
Sasha and I, we build these systems along with token economic systems. We build
Hmm.
airdrops for some of our portfolio companies. And, I said this on a podcast on Friday, but you could easily have this ultimate army of evangelists turn into like an
Your
angry
biggest
mob
haters.
with
Yeah.
torches and pitchforks ready to
That's not
kill
what you
you.
want
Like,
at all. Yeah. And like
yeah,
that's why
yeah,
I said it's like you've lost all of your believers, right? If you're a product founder, project founder, you're trying to find your first 1,000 fans. You're trying to enriching them, whether that be through a token or through just feeling like they are a part of the community and
yeah.
valued and they're aligned with your beliefs and what you're trying to build. And there's a lot of mercenary capital on the airdrop front for sure.
Yeah, and that's a good segue too, because like I love what you said about the sentiment being
Mhm.
reflected in the long term outlook and the price, and obviously a big part of the Ethos platform is the daily rewards and tasking. And
Mhm.
like I wanted to ask you, like you don't have to reveal anything you don't want to, but where does that play into it? Obviously, we have the drama flywheel that's like a major motivator right now, but perhaps in the future, people will appreciate being rewarded in other ways besides feeling like they can pat themselves on the back for contributing their experience.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the way that I would look at it right now is just like someone who creates a YouTube video that gets a bunch of clicks. People on Ethos, they're creating value. They're
Yep.
like, when you watch a YouTube video, it's valuable. It's valuable entertainment to someone. When you create something on Ethos, it is valuable to other people because now they know who they can trust and who they can't trust. A reward mechanism is not impossible to imagine by any means. Today, it's through XP. So we give you XP, and that allows us to understand today, how do we properly incentivize that later? And like why that is so important is like, well, if we incentivize slashing and all of a sudden you get 100 slashes a day, like that defeats the purpose, right? Like that's not the point. You might get a bunch of like really like just terrible slashes. And so we're in this time right now where we have the ability to experiment and understand incentive structure. It's not as simple as like, oh, it's 5% APY. It's like there's a lot of complexity to it. And like, yeah, every time I sit down and I do the weekly like XP, and I'm like, okay, here's what's happened this week. Here's how I want to adjust things. Like I want to reward this type of behavior and not. I have this belief eventually that we can get it to be automated by an LLM actually. Where like I'm training it on like what I think, what people are saying and how it works. Where we don't have to have a person in the middle, but like an oracle that's kind of looking at all of the things objectively and deciding how to incentivize things.
Yeah. And you guys are also like, I love how you have yourself and you have Ethos actually on Ethos, so people can rate it in real time and say like, oh, Ethos is a scam. Like, why are they doing this to me?
Right. Yeah. Totally.
But,
Yeah.
like,
That's the point.
yeah, and I love that transparency and that. Like, I also like, how does that tie into it? Because like, you're obviously gonna be doling out rewards, and you're not going to want to be on Ethos. Ethos is on Ethos with a bad reputation, having pissed off these airdrop farmers, these bounty hunters. So, like, what is the sort of the approach you want to take there? Like, obviously, the first layer is having yourself on there and saying like, we will listen to you. If we make a mistake, we will adjust it, because that's the whole point of this.
Yeah, well, I would say like fundamentally, I'm a big believer in like customer feedback is the number one way to build products.
Absolutely, yeah.
I've built products for millions of users before and have been absolutely swimming in feedback, but we spend, me and many other people that are way smarter than I am spend their time talking to customers, right?
Yep.
Like the best product people out there will spend 30 minutes a day talking to a customer. And getting feedback from those customers is the most valuable thing. No one in crypto understands this for whatever reason, because I've taught people how to build products, and the number one thing that every kid out of college that is like a product manager from an Ivy League school thinks is like, I know how to build everything. And you're like, no, you have no idea. You have to go talk to your customers. And so I feel like that interaction point of getting response from our customers and people being open about being bearish about us, like, is something I welcome. I host Twitter Spaces occasionally that's like, FUD Ethos. Tell me what you think is stupid about it, right? Like, if we don't, then we'll build the wrong thing, right? So
yeah,
I try to be as transparent as possible. And when you think about the echo chamber that we can live in, it's hard to get that feedback. Like, people are just blindly bullish on stuff, right?
Yeah.
Take Monad as an example, something that was blindly bullish for a very long time, and I feel like has kind of pivoted away from that. I think they're getting good, valuable feedback. Of course, most people are just like, you should launch already, but they're still going to get feedback about it, right? And that's kind of a missing link in a lot of ways. And what I hope that Ethos can help surface is like, when someone does have a critique of me or have a critique of Ethos, and they're like, I think you're fucking up by doing this, like, tell us, right? Like, we'll go figure out how to handle that. I found in my career that the people that are the loudest against you are easiest to turn into your biggest advocates for you if you're good enough. Because they were already actually passionate about it. They just haven't revealed that. They haven't found out how to be passionately good about it or passionately strong belief in it. So anyways, that's kind of how I think about it. And that's why I like the product so much for a lot of those reasons.
It's really exciting that you're taking like such a strong product first focus. Like I want to linger a little bit more on this idea of like incentivization. And I know a lot of people have likely spoken to you about like when token
Hmm.
and all these conversations. And Carmelo and I, we like to play this game sometimes because
Hmm.
we work a lot within the tokenomic space where we look at like a traditional business and say like, how would you fit a cryptocurrency into that? Like
Mm.
Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
and there might be like some really interesting ways to do that.
Hmm.
And a lot of people are talking now about use case,
Hmm.
and use case drives demand and all these different things. And we coach a lot of startups, even within like accelerator and incubator programs,
Hmm.
on how you might construct a digital asset economy if you
Hmm.
choose to launch a token. But what a lot of people don't talk about
Hmm.
is the kind of vision, narrative, and objectives of how a digital asset can fit into your business. And
Right.
so when we speak with founders around this, it's like, well, what can a cryptocurrency do for you? But more importantly, like what can't it do for you? And
Hmm.
so maybe it can be used to like rapidly onboard new users.
Hmm.
Maybe it can be used to incentivize like crowdsource contribution, data,
Hmm.
or action. It can be used as collateral for a reputation system. It can be used for decentralized governance. But like in all the cases, you can't have all of them, right?
Hmm.
Like you need to pick and choose because some of them sometimes conflict.
Hmm.
And it always comes down to like business objectives. Like I want to make sure that like people are happy with the product or this
Yep.
or that. And with that being said, I want to ask you, like, I'm not going to ask you if you're going to launch a token, but
Hmm.
like if this is something that is a discussion or like a concept within the world of the Ethos company, like
Hmm.
what are the non-negotiables for the
Mm.
company in like taking a cryptocurrency to market?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. I'm a big advocate for tokens must have utility. They must be at the core of whatever you are building. And I'm talking not as the CEO of Ethos, but imagine that I am talking as the general partner for my hedge fund, right? Um, I like tokens that have use that where use generates the flywheel of the token itself. In order to use the product, you have to use the token. In order to get value from the product, you can get rewarded with the token. We've largely steered away from this in most tokenomics examples lately. Some of it has to do with administration in the U.S. and people's fear of being over people just being very safe about how tokens work. You look at the Zora token and they're like, oh, it's just like a token. It's just a meme token. Like they tried to like show all responsibility, and it's probably because of legal constraints, right? You look at Blur as an example. The token doesn't do anything. And it never has done anything, right? It acted as a proxy. You look at Hyperliquid, the token is really well, you can make money staking it, but it's pretty trivial money. And uh, what else can you do with the hyper? Oh, it's the buybacks, right? You're basically buying into price as the product of the token. Um, I can my co-founder and I consider ourselves more ideologists than pragmatists
Mm.
when it comes to like tokens. And I believe more strongly in building something that is sustainable, an economy that can be powered by something, as opposed to pure speculation. And today we have plenty of ability to use Ethereum as a token to do that, and it offers us a lot of ability to understand how that works. We already take Ethereum as a vouching mechanism. uh, when I think about some of the examples you were talking about that I think get become really compelling is like, well, you can't lend against it today. So what if you could lend against it? What if you could lend against the people that vouch for you and they're held responsible for your funds? And if you have $100,000 vouched for you, you can take a loan out against the people that have a loan, the people that are putting money against your name. The Ethos smart contract can pull that money out. So, we might have a way of enforcing something like you defaulted on your loan. I whether that is an Ethereum or another ERC20, like there's a lot that we can do with that. And so hopefully that was kind of a roundabout way of answering a few things there, without like being too overt about it, I guess.
No, I love it. I think like this focus on vision is like I said, something that founders don't focus on enough.
Mm-hmm.
They look at, and we've seen it over the past however many years. Founders approach cryptocurrency token launches as like a money making mechanism, and then
Right.
let's slap on some utility onto it. But
Right.
one of the most important or most beneficial approaches to like having your product and users and ecosystem first is that if you choose to go down this road, it's
Mm-hmm.
so much more fun. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much more you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I think like when you that allows you to like tie right back into the vision and what you want to accomplish, not like now, but also like in 1 month, in 1 year, in 5 years.
Yeah. This is sort of anecdotal, but my observation of the crypto space in general, in terms of product thinking or product strategy, is I've been a director of product. I've taught people how to build products before. I've trained people that just got out of college how to think about product. Most people in this space act like a product manager that's been out of school for 6 months. They don't understand the principles of like having vision, and like I've been there in my career, like not understanding why vision, like fuck vision, why would I care about vision? Like I'm just like solving all the problems directly in front of me. Why do I need to care about vision, right? Or not thinking about customers and how to bring their feedback in. They're not going to tell you exactly what they want, but how do you get it out of them? um and so my observation that I have is like everyone that is building something, apart from like the wildly successful things, most new people that are building something, they don't think about these things because they've never been trained to it. They don't know that that's the right way to do it. It's different than how your brain thinks. Your brain is like, I know all the right things to do, I will do all of these right things. As an engineer, you rarely even, why would you ever go talk to a customer and get their feedback on something? Like, it doesn't make sense. And so it is a very unique role where it requires this like very forward strategic thinking, ability to understand, discern what customers are saying, and translate that into something that your entire team can understand. Like, it is a skill set that anyone that's building something in the space needs to have. And what my observation is, like, it reminds me of working with interns or working with kids right out of school. They just don't have the same like approach to building products. They fall into the very normal trap to fall into, which is, I know everything, I don't need to think about anything long term, I'm just building whatever is kind of like in front of me.
Actually, that reminds me. Like, how does this experience, compare against the one you had working for like Web2 companies and being a product manager or head of product versus founding a company in Web3?
Yeah, I mean, this is the best job I ever had, man. Like, it's so much more fun. I think, yeah, I come from Web 2, and you know, changing things. I mean, I've worked from companies as big as like Hewlett Packard, where like 300,000 employees, and
Wow.
like change is meaningless, and like you don't get anything done ever, and like we play disc golf during lunch hours and stuff. Like, this is the complete opposite of that, right?
Yeah.
This is so much more fun. The building loops are much tighter. Um,
Oh yeah.
your ability to reach customers, talk to customers, understand what they want is so much tighter. To a scary point, right? As a team, you could do something wrong and you're going to get a ton of sentiment, and you might get a bunch of negative ethos reviews, or you might get slashed. Like, that never happened in Web 2. Like, you're so abstracted from the customer. Um, the space in particular rewards builders. It rewards builders at a rate that other projects or other spaces don't. Look at an example of someone like Ultra, who has built a bunch of dashboards. He built stuff like Laudio, and I think he launched something today. He's a builder. He just goes and builds things, right? And like, there's no engineering team behind him. And so long as you can get attention, you can build something. And a lot of people screw that up in the end. But during the NFT era, that's all anyone ever did. They build a bunch of NFTs and they go launch it and they create communities, and like, the space rewards building. And I really like that. I think it's way more fun. It gives you have to have the flexibility of throwing shit at the wall and understanding what sticks a little more.
Yeah.
But it is way more fun. I would say it is also a lot more dependent on how much attention you can get. You can start a business in Web 2. You can build a business through business relationships and understanding people and solving a problem for a guy that you know, and suddenly you have a $10,000 a month contract, and now you have a business. And like, those things don't exist in Web 3. And in Web 3, it's like did we catch fire on crypto Twitter or not? And you look at something like Launchcoin, they made $50 million in fees, or Friendtech launched $50 million in fees, and that was just like a random idea they had, right?
Yeah.
That goes to the it's like a double-sided sword of like, the space rewards builders so much so that like you can get to very ephemeral things that don't last very long. And it's scary because I never want to be that. I always want to be like a team that builds progress over time, if that makes sense. So that's the other
Yeah.
thing that like I think about a lot that I would never have thought about in Web2.
Absolutely. And you just, I wasn't planning on asking this, but we are doing a space in the next week or two on vibe coding. And how does
There
vibe
you go.
coding sort of throw like a monkey wrench or a spanner into the works? Like, if you have those
Crazy.
people building with no technical
Mhm.
ability, then they've never built a product before. And now
Yeah.
you got so many people building.
I am glad you asked this. I think we're on the golden age of building right now, of creativity, the ability to create content, like whether it's controversial or not, and anyone can be an artist now. Like, you can't be the
Yeah.
best artist, but anyone can be an artist now. Anyone can be a writer. Anyone could be an AI model, an AI girlfriend, whatever you want, right? Um, that's crazy. I spend every Monday and Wednesday I do vibe coding sessions, and I'm like, this is untapped potential that every single person in this world has. I want them to direct it at Ethos, right? So
Yeah.
if I have a chance to be like, I will teach you vibe coding, and also I'll show you how to vibe code something cool on Ethos, that's a win. And people like Ultra, I think he actually knows how to write code pretty well, but he also leverages vibe coding a lot when it comes to like front end design or something you should never have to think about. We've built so many things on Ethos that are like, let's just spend 2 hours trying, like, throwing shit at the wall, seeing if it works,
Yeah, I
right?
love that.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. You can unlock so much. And so I'm like, well, if I could do it, I wouldn't go unlock 1,000 people to do that on top of Ethos, right? So um, vibe coding is an incredible amount of potential. If you're a founder, you should I mean, one, you should obviously, if you're not using in some sort of AI coding within your company, you're missing out on a huge like incremental gain that you can get from productivity. But two, you can use it to evangelize people to build on your platform, I think.
Yeah.
And people want to learn how to vibe code. I still have people ask me about old sessions, like, can I go back and watch this thing? Or people that come back and show me something they built with vibe coding. We started a program where like the people that are really, really, really deep on our platform that are building things, we're like, we will pay for your cursor bill and we'll give you $200 a month to like, build something
Wow.
on Ethos.
I
So
haven't heard of that. That's awesome.
yeah, I'm all in on it. I'm glad you asked the question. I'm all in on it as both a way to build cool things, throw shit at the wall faster, see what sticks faster, and
Yeah.
empower an entire community of people building.
Which is obviously
It's a great
impossible for
strategy.
the Hewlett Packards or the
Yeah,
Atlassians.
no chance. Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't stand a chance. This is a very different world. I mean, this is what I'm good at, though. Is it's the fun, like, just try shit out, see what works, and run with the things that do kind of thing. You don't get that at big companies at all.
Yeah, for sure. Oh,
Yeah, so we're coming up to a close, but we want to kind of bring it back into ethos and understand, what is the future direction around all this traction, attention you guys have gotten. It seems like the company is working in like many different streams at the same
Mhm.
time. You guys have everything around like the data analytics, data processing, and reputation side. You've got like the front around building users, but verifying users coming in to make
Mhm.
sure that the product quality doesn't suffer. You've got everything around like this incredibly complex like business development strategy
Mhm.
around like turning this into an infrastructure layer and working with companies not only within the space of like token launch, but Web3, the greater industry, and then hopefully outside of Web3. And so like let's wrap it all up. Like what's on your plate right now as far as like a big
Mm.
focus, and where do you see Ethos going in the next year and 3 years?
Yeah, so a big focus right now is enabling more use cases. We want to, whether that be through integrating with other partners, um, or building ourselves. We're building a new product right now on top of Ethos ourselves. There's a lot that pretty much every interaction in the space gets better when you know who the other person is, and there are some very like low hanging fruit that we're trying to take advantage of right now. similar to how the like L1s and L2s are learning that they need to build their own apps on their infrastructure. If you look at Ethos as an infrastructure, we are also building our own apps on top of Ethos. Now, the other things that I think about are like, can we bring value to the score? Can we go work with other people? Whether that's you get a better lending rate or you get participation in an echo round because you have a good score. Like there are plenty of things that we're pushing on there. Where I would look at this though in a year is like in a year, it should be true that pretty much every interaction that you have in Web3, they consider your Ethos score. Whether that be, access to a community, whether that be maybe on Uniswap V4, you get better rates because you're not a wash trader, you're a real user,
Wow.
right? Like, we use it for gas sponsorship. We pay for all of the gas for our users. And we don't pay for gas when your score is under 1300. Why? Because that's where 70% of the spam comes from. And so you're like, you could pay your own gas, right? And so like there are all of these ways. You might not even know that your Ethos score is being considered, but there are all these ways that it will come into play. Maybe it's during an over-the-counter deal. You look at someone's score. When you hire someone, you look at someone's score. That's the real vision of the next 1 to 3 years is like, the next 1 year would be capturing CT and ensuring that that score is everywhere. On the 3-year scales, when you start breaking out of just CT and you say, okay, we've got this proven system. We understand the scores. People vibe well with it. It's very Sybil proof and difficult to spoof. Like, how do we go adapt to other markets that are adjacent to us, that are not crypto first, that can benefit from having reputation? At the end of the day, the thing to think about is like, we're designing a composable reputation system, and there is no such thing on the web as a composable reputation system. When you go to write a review between 2 different sites, like there's no identity behind them that like makes them more powerful between the 2 of them. That will be very valuable to businesses. Like, oh, someone left you a review, but it's not just a random person left you a review. It's like someone who's left 100 reviews and has a bunch of reputation somewhere else. And yeah, I mean, I think the other big thing that I'd like to see going back to a year is really just that every project's launch has some dependency on their Ethos score, or has some insights driven by their Ethos score. Where the best projects that launch, they're the ones that are truly credible, and people pay less attention to the ones that have very little backing or any type of social proof.
Man, that is such good vision. I really love that.
We've been thinking about it for a while, man. Yeah, I mean, it helps.
Yeah,
We think about it every day.
the best part is it's like it's measurable. And
right.
so like you guys know exactly how to move forward to it. So like really thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
We've got one more big question that I'm going to ask Carmelo to ask you. It's the same. We start every interview the same way. We end it the same way. But before we do, I forgot to ask one thing.
Yeah.
Everyone's familiar with leaderboards.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an Ethos wall of shame? Like, who is the worst?
Oh, there is. Yeah. There's a.
Is there someone you laugh about because they're so bad?
There's a least credible board on Ethos. So there are leaderboards in Ethos, and there are categories, and you can do everyone, or you can say like just venture capital firms, and you can sort it by credibility. So the top of the top are usually people like Mario Narfall. I don't remember how to say his last name. Historically not viewed as super positively from the trenchers of people in crypto. Man, what else? I'd have to actually go look at it. But there are a lot of. I remember talking to Zach XBT once, and he was like, "Yeah, when I look at the bottom of the leaderboard, I feel like it's pretty accurate." And I was like, "Okay, that's always good." Yeah, the top of the leaderboard, not so much. We still have a lot of work to do. But the bottom of the leaderboard, he's like, "Yeah, you got a lot of good people on there," and it helps people, right? If you don't know anything about Ethos, or you don't know anything about the space, and you go look at someone's profile, and you're like, "Oh, he's like telling me to participate in a pre-sale, but like it seems like no one likes this guy. Should I actually do this?" Like, we can save people's money that way and make the space better. So but yeah, there is. Yeah, it's not a shame board. It's just a consensus of negativity board, is what I would say.
Oh man, please rebrand it to Wall of Shame. That would make my year. But so I'm going to hand the mic off to Carmelo. But again, one more thing before we do, I'd like to remind all of our listeners, if you're enjoying this discussion, make sure you tap that like button and throw us a follow. We got plenty of more exciting Boom Room interviews coming. If you're interested at all in learning more about Serpin and Ethos, check out the links in the show notes. And it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you, invite you on and talk about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like Sasha said, we end every episode like this, and there's only one rule: you're not allowed to say your own company or what you're working on. But what are you most excited about in the next 12 months? It could be, a niche, a subsector in the industry. It can be a token. It can be another company. It doesn't matter. Just can't be Ethos, obviously.
I would probably go back to vibe coding, honestly. I
Okay.
think what vibe coding unlocks for people, most people don't understand it yet.
Mm-hmm.
It will create an abundance of opportunity for people that never had that opportunity before.
Yep.
The barrier to entry for writing code is significant, and now it's zero, in my opinion. Can you make like a fully fledged Facebook app? Like, can you make Facebook? No, obviously not. But we will see a trend towards more micro apps and small like jigs as opposed to full on tools.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to be powered by, we had this thesis 10 years ago, like knowledge workers in the space of like knowledge workers represent like 1 billion people in the world, and they'll like, be the new developers. And like, I believe just similarly, you're looking at, there was 100 million developers in the world before. Now there are billions of developers.
Yeah.
We have not in our brains understood what that means yet. And you can see it in some of them. You see these like, hustler 22-year-olds on TikTok that are like, I built a 100K MRR brand through vibe coding, whatever. I think that is the explosion that has not hit us yet in a good way, in a really positive way. Especially when you think about, countries outside of the US or countries outside of the ones being known to build software. Like, this is readily available to everyone. As soon as,
Yeah.
as the price continues to go down to do these models, like, you are opening a world to writing code that never had access before. And I think that is like, yeah, sure, AI is big. This is the most practical use of AI that has the ability to really blow up the global developer network of people.
Yeah, that's a beautiful bull case for it. Like these stories you hear about, like some guy in a random village in the middle of nowhere in Africa
Mhm.
built an airplane somehow with no
Right.
resources. And yeah, absolutely. If you democratize access to these tools, who knows what kind of innovation is going to be parabolic after that.
Yeah, it's similar to the internet in the sense of like, you are giving access to something that is significant, that opens many doors to a lot of people,
Yep.
and not everyone is going to participate, but uh, unlocking creativity in the world globally is a really powerful thing. And again, that's not just going to happen through code. It's going to be people creating art, people creating images,
Hmm.
videos, YouTubes. Like, we are about to see an explosion of creativity in the globe.
It's a lot more optimistic than I feel about AI slop most days,
Yeah.
but I
This is
agree.
the
Like it,
optimistic side of it, right? Like,
yeah,
ignore all the other stuff. Like, how can we put it to use? I try to focus on the optimistic parts.
I respect it.
It's an interesting one. I think as time goes on, like many more people are becoming more optimistic around vibe coding, and
Right.
like personally, I use AI tools for development as well. So like
Mm-hmm.
it blows my mind how good they are if you know how to bring some process into it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like that a lot. Anyways, Serpin, thank you so much again for joining. It's been an
Yeah,
incredible discussion. Looking forward to speaking with you more around
absolutely.
Ethos and following your journey and seeing what's happening with the company as you guys continue to grow. Again, just a reminder for our audience members: tap that like button, throw us a follow if you like this content, or leave a comment and tell us that we suck if you hate it. But we're receptive to
Or
everyone.
tell us
Or
on
go
Ethos.
and yeah,
Yeah,
tell
there
us
you
on
go.
Ethos. So we're on there. And again, if you're interested in learning more about Ethos, the links to the show notes, check them out. Sign up and start vouching, start interacting. It's a cool platform, and I think it's got some legs. Thanks again so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. Ciao.